And before we welcome in our guest, Sean, let's have a swifty look at the Whitney story that we talked about last week.
Yes.
Right. So just an overview. Whitney Houston, obviously multi-million selling artist for many decades, died, found accidental drowning apparently in a bathtub at the Beverly Hills Hotel in February 2022. Apparently was said to have heart disease and cocaine use as contributing factors. And then 3 years later, her daughter, Bobby Christina, was found in a similar situation, unconscious in a bathtub in her home. And then 5 years later, Nick Gordon, who was present at both their deaths, was also found dead on January the 1st of apparent heroin overdose. And there's so much to this story that's uber odd, Sean. And I've been listening to Leola Brown, who is Bobby Brown's sister. Leola has had a problem from the get-go with Pat Houston, who was Whitney Houston's manager and sister-in-law, married to Gary Houston. Leola has made a number of very serious and outrageous allegations against Pat Houston, and some of it is evident to see. And one example is 3 months after Whitney's death, Pat Houston, as at the head of a reality show, did a reality show of the Houstons on Our Own, which they used Whitney's image throughout it. It was her voice on the intro. It was completely cashing in on the death of Whitney Houston, using the young daughter, images at the graveside. The daughter didn't even want to be part of it. She didn't turn up to things. And it was just actually disgusting, the way it all went down. And it was obviously about money. And then, so when Whitney died, her will was to go to Bobby Christina. When Bobby Christina died, her money went to Cissy Houston and the brothers, which obviously included Gary Houston and Pat Houston. I'm making no claims against Pat or Gary Houston whatsoever. I'm simply saying what is out there in the public domain, and that there are question marks over this. And for the three of them to be dead is weird.
Yes, and the situation they were all found in. I think when it happened, I don't know why, for some reason, I just always knew that there was something else behind it. Obviously, we all know that we're from the conspiracy side, and we like to overthink and we like to analyze. We don't like to take the media and what the press say is black and white. And it just felt a little bit odd. And then I've looked into it a few, this is before I saw, is it Lee, what's her name?
Leola Brown.
Leola Brown, yeah. Before I've seen all these kind of videos, and it was like, there was just so many weird things. Like they carried on partying when...
I know. And left her body. In her room for like 11 hours. And Clive Davis was her record company boss. He went ahead with his yearly annual Grammys party.
Yes, he did.
So that to me was always appeared ritualistic. I'm sorry, it did. So you have this incredible party downstairs, and above, floors above, is a dead body.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've always said that. Weird.
I would actually hate to be a multi-million-dollar selling artist in the music industry. I think it's one of the scariest industries to be in once you get to that level. And the amount of artists that have been murdered for their back catalogue is literally, it's like another war, but technically, isn't it? It's like, and you know, like you've got people like Kanye West at the minute, who's kind of having another bit of a break from the Matrix. And, you know, he's saying some really, really dodgy stuff that's upset a lot of Jewish people, I think, over the last couple of weeks. But he views himself as an Israelite, so he thinks he can't be anti-Semitic because he thinks the Semitics were black and that whole story.
Yeah.
But in general, I think he's like, in that industry, I'm not going to say that it's Jewish because I know it's not, but I'd say there's a lot of Zionists probably at the top of certain big industries.
100%. We'd be stupid not to say so.
Yeah, and music is definitely one. Music is definitely one. And it's also a massive tool to control the population. So with Whitney, when it all happened, I just was like, this is so odd. And then poor Bobby Christina, and then the similarities in both deaths. There's just so much that I cannot believe this has not been spoken about more in the press.
Yeah, I know, where they won't, will they? And don't forget, Bobby Christina was found, first of all, in the bath before Whitney was found. And Leola Brown believes that actually the aim was to kill Bobby Christina first and then say that Whitney died by suicide. is what Leola Brown is claiming. Very interesting stuff. There's also some creepy stuff. Remember, we often talk about kind of like, I don't know, it's not foreshadowing, it's not the word, but when they like programming, when they put something in a program, and I saw an old Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you remember Will Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a character comes in with this cardboard cutout of Bill Cosby, obviously before Bill Cosby was exposed. And Will Smith says, "What happened to your Whitney Houston?" And the character turned around and says, "Fell apart in the shower." Yeah, mate, I just saw that clip yesterday. I was like, what?
It's weird. It's horrible when you see them sort of clips, because they're the clips that make you crazy.
Yeah, they are. Exactly. They are. Absolutely. They really are. So this to me is a story now, because Leola Brown is really going for it, right?
She's got a YouTube account if people want to go and watch it, and it's on there, and she's doing big lives on YouTube, and she's definitely not holding back.
No, she's not holding back. Nick Gordon, obviously, something wrong with that kid. He went to live with Whitney and Bobby Christina for like the last 7 years of Whitney's life after her and Bobby Brown ended. And she was like, Whitney Houston was like a mother figure to him. While in the meantime, him and Bobby Christina were already starting something. Bobby Christina was very, very young. But so obviously they had a relationship. Nick Gordon was accused of domestic violence against Bobby Christina, including knocking her teeth out. Just horrendous stuff, really. So yeah,
you know, she's claimed as well that Whitney had no drugs in her system.
Yes.
She's claimed that she had marks on her body, broken nails. It looked like she struggled.
Yes.
She's claimed that Whitney put up a big fight for her life.
That's right. So when you look at it like that, so the official story is this woman, well, we already knew she had drug and alcohol problems. Well, she passed away in the bath. That happens. But when you reverse it and imagine, what if she was fighting for her life in there?
Yeah.
We should be fighting for her.
I have a feeling that that's probably a symbol.
Right.
You know, if you're found dead in the bath, it means something in their world. That,
well, it isn't.
Do you know what I'm trying to imply?
Yeah, isn't there a whole thing of like the bath is the gateway to exit and entrance this world? Isn't that it? Because of the water.
Yeah. But I meant more in like they're deliberately publicly embarrassing the Houston name,
right,
or whatever, or you know, when they find someone who's asphyxiated, there's always something behind it that person has been deliberately made an example of, right? So no one else steps out of line.
Well, I would like to guide everybody to a clip that still haunts me. And it is, I believe, the day before Whitney was found murdered. And I say murdered because I believe she was murdered. And it was a day before. And there's a press whatever taking place. Some photos are being taken place. Clive Davis is sat with Brandy and Monica. And I'm not sure if I've told you this before, but they were promoting their song, which Clive Davis was the boss, and Brandy and Monica, it was on his record label. And in that video, there is, it all belongs to me, the song is called. And in that video is an image of Monica. She's got a Whitney Houston t-shirt on. And as you see her with a Whitney Houston t-shirt on, she cuts the tie of a man who is in front of her. And I find those symbolisms very creepy. I'll include it if I can in this broadcast so everybody can see what I'm talking about. But when that was happening, Whitney handed a note to Brandy, because Whitney obviously had an on-off relationship with Brandy's brother, Ray J. And Ray J is also a man who was around in a lot of very incredible circumstances, including being the man involved in Kim Kardashian's sex tape. But another name I want you all to just look into these characters. Raffles is a man who was around Whitney Houston and around Michael Jackson. And just look at these characters, see, whether where they were leads to anything else, and who they were associated with. And as I say, we make no allegations against anybody here. We're just saying that something seems a little bit off. Yeah,
the problem is, I think people just think, it's only a couple of million. She's only worth a couple of mil. We're talking huge amounts of generational wealth.
When she was dead. once she was dead,
huge amounts of generational wealth.
she was actually reported to have died without very much money at all. But after a certain period of time, that another 20 million had reportedly been amassed, and that would have been from sales.
100%.
All her albums. Well, the executors and the people who obviously benefit from the will, as I say, initially Bobby, Christina, but when she's dead, it would be her mother and her brothers. So
that's my fear with artists, with musicians. That's what it comes down to. You make more money dead. So
that's just shocking, isn't it?
You just got to watch your back when you get to that level.